She just sold her company. She sat in a room full of men negotiating the biggest deal of her lifetime. Wait, she sold for how much? I can't even believe she managed to get double her valuation. Let's keep this just between us.
Gwen, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Carrie. I'm so happy to be here.
I'm so excited. And ever since I met you, I feel like I met you like post sale, but like just post sale or something like that. I met you quite a few years ago, and it was love at first sight, put it that way. I was just completely
like crawling out of COVID.
Yes. I think we were like, "Arr," and just getting there. Well, I'm really excited to talk to you today because one thing I love about you, we talk about exit whispering. We talk about sharing the secrets of an exit, and what goes into it and what can happen. You have some story to tell here. And so I'm really all of it. Like actually it's not even just like the juicy bits. It's the whole thing. And I can't wait for my listeners to get to learn from you. And I want to start with the start of the laundress because I think it's such a fantastic story and particularly not just like the idea behind starting it, but how you managed to fund it because it's a really good start.
All right. Well, I've owned that I'm a born masochist, so I think that's only someone like that could fund the way I did. So I had a vision in 2002 that I needed to make laundry detergent that could care for everything, reduce the need for dry cleaning, and was really created and formulated properly for wool and silk and jeans and not getting pit stains, on my t-shirts and all of these things. And so that was the vision. I was working at Ralph Lauren. I told my boss about my vision and he couldn't have been more supportive and really with his just when someone believes in your idea, then it gives you the courage to continue and the motivation to. So I did. I wrote a business plan for 2 years, did the whole research and development, the whole thing. And along with that, I went through the small business development organization at Baruch College. So that was a feeder for the SBA program.
Yeah.
And I had an advisor and I met with her and we put together my SBA application to apply for a loan. It was government backed, but there was no gifts given for this loan.
Right.
And I had seen like 12% APR or something ridiculous. It was leveraged from my 401k that I had amassed, like my little, pittance of a savings at Ralph Lauren. And it was before the financial crisis, 2004, when they were giving money like that capacity.
Yeah.
And I had $100,000 and I launched the laundress. So that paid for the first production run. I had 13 SKUs and it's an inventory business. It's CPG. So I had to buy my product in order to go to market and launch.
So you launch and you have $100,000 from the SBA and that's it. And how quickly do you realize that you're onto something? How quickly do you know that it's going to work?
I didn't know it was going. I mean, I guess my mentality was that it wasn't not going to work. There wasn't an option of failure. Like I had to feed myself this way. I worked for another 9 months while after I launched. I was living back as it was. So this was my livelihood. I had nothing to fall back on, but I knew that I needed this product that other people would, but it was a very slow and steady through the market of getting buy-in, but because it was a new category, it didn't exist. So people didn't understand what I was doing. Oh, it's it's soap, it's organic, it's laundry, it looks like shampoo. It was a slow and steady build. But there were early adopters and the first trade show and then first and foreign customers a lot. It was interesting. There was a lot more understanding in the international market who didn't have a dry clean culture that America has.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah. So I had a global business very early on And it was 2004, and the market was interesting because I needed to make money, and the internet was there, but it really wasn't used for commerce. Like Amazon was
Right.
selling books.
Yes. Yes.
Like one of my girlfriends earmarked the time of when she had her first child and actually bought like diapers on the internet. You know?
Yes. Yes. No, I mean, that was 2004. It was really not so mainstream yet at
I
all,
mean,
selling
Whole Foods
commerce on
was
the
like
internet.
one location. It was
That's right.
this whole
That's right.
better for you market did not exist. The idea of a natural or a non-grocery cleaning product only existed at the health food store with like Dr. Bronner's or like something that you knew didn't work.
That's so interesting to me because now the concept of the laundress, like your concept of what you had, makes so much sense in the world we live in today, in a
20
world where
years
we've
later.
kind of realized, right. But then it was very niche, people who would care to that level. Wow. So how did you connect with the people to start like really getting it to grow? I mean, from it starting just with this, okay, we're producing this product and now we're going to actually get it to grow. You did trade shows, but how do you find the people who care? Who care? How do you find those people back then?
Oddly, and as I comp now, it was, I feel like it was in retrospect, like for me at least, I feel like it was oddly easier because you had an attention span that was
Right.
focused. So you
Right.
had trade shows where people were looking for brands, they were looking for innovation, they were looking to do business. And then you had proper media, which were the magazines that, you know, the newspapers that people read and they lived by, like Real Simple, a Bible for so many people.
Right.
So the
Right.
power of these periodicals were so strong that I could find my people by explaining what I was doing and giving washing tips and selling the product. And that's how we really generated the US market, was by, I had a product, but I was also offering a solution with a know-how behind it. So there was an education, there was a product, there was a much more into it. Now it's so diluted that like everyone's, you know, faffing around on social media trying to get an eyeball to convert. It's not this, it's too disorganized. It's like,
Yeah, I totally hear that. I hear that you were early, which is amazing, and that you had a focused media set from which you would garner interest from the people that were interested in that. So like Real Simple is the perfect target for that. And now Real Simple is so diluted because of the massive distractions of social, like there's no more like concentrated media outlets that
yeah,
work
and
in the way that they did then.
it's like, you know, an influencer or a TikTok or whatever who's like,
Yeah.
I'll pay to play anyway. So none of
Yeah.
it's real Reddit reporting of,
Right.
you know, so
Yeah.
it was very different, but it was much easier to find the people. And when you again like have a solution to offer and a know-how, it's a very different ball game than like, oh, just buy this, it works.
Oh, for sure. For sure. Okay. So it picks up steam. Was there like a real pivotal moment of growth for the business? Was there a moment that you really felt like it took it to the next level? And I know you financed this like after the SBA loan, it was like
Yeah,
credit
I mean
cards, right? Like you,
that dried up real quick.
that is crazy. So the 100,000 goes away. Like when do you start to
Quickly.
grow? When do you have to start
Quickly.
taking out your credit cards? All of it.
No, the credit cards came soon after. And, you know, I think, Carrie, what it's important though is that I fundamentally believe that I had a better earning capacity as Gwen Whiting on my own than I did in the structure of Ralph Lauren as an employee.
Yes. Yeah.
And my benchmark was quite low. As it's
Yeah.
known, designers are not well paid.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I had a low benchmark, but I was like, I have to be able to at least, you know, generate comparable earnings and that my potential was greater in my own hands.
Did you always have that belief in yourself and that confidence, or was that something that was built over time?
I always go back to the fact that I was a child gymnast, and it takes a certain
Yes.
masochistic ignorance to throw yourself over a 4-inch piece of wood.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
So,
So you did.
so like, for better or for worse, like I was raised, challenging my physical ability and my mental ability and craziness to do those things. So you have to believe that you're not going to kill yourself when you're doing that.
Well, I think like what I hear is like the tenacity, right? I hear that confidence combined with the innate need for survival. Because I heard you say, I mean, it's like it can't fail. I mean, this was my income. I'm leaving Ralph Lauren, like regardless of the fact that it doesn't pay what you could earn in your earning capacity. Like this, you put everything on the line for this, and you took on by not raising money during this process. You took on a lot of inherent individual risk by essentially self-financing it, right? Through debt and through credit cards and everything else.
Yeah. But, you know, as being raised a child gymnast, where you're going through puberty in a leotard and you're falling on your
Yeah.
head and you're
Yeah.
humiliating yourself every single day and you're getting up and doing it again. There is like a real muscle and tolerance to that activity.
Yeah.
So yes, I did continue to finance with a credit card, but there is a control there. It was my debt.
Yes.
I
Yes.
controlled the debt. And what you say about the hard way about not raising money, I actually felt the opposite. I had, I got called into like the bro meetings that I was bro told that they had all the tricks and they could do everything better and like they could just wave their like money wand at you and you're going to be like insta rich success and la 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 la. And there was nothing behind that. And I was like, great, cool, like throw some cash. But what I also saw very clearly in a very small way, because nothing was as public. This wasn't like an everyday occurrence that it is now. We can listen to 50 podcasts a day and have complete exposure and understand the game. This was like a room that I didn't know anyone that had been in. It was like a secret space, but I was like very clear that these people were not on my team and that
That's right.
most likely I was going to get thrown under the bus. And 100% I would have been thrown under the bus by my business partner and the bros because they were throwing other people under the bus. And when you're the visionary and you're the voice and you're like the mama bear, like tiger mom, that's who goes under the bus.
So when you're advising founders now and you look back and you talk to founders, you prefer the path. I mean, that I took the same path as you, for the same desire for control. I mean, I have a real desire for control. I just never know, is that the right way? It was the right way for me. It was in many ways the right way for you.
Listen, it's not for everybody, but I also, the way of our way has been lost, or
Yes. Yes.
so lost that people don't even know that that's an option. Like you're raised to raise money. It's like, oh,
right.
But yeah. And there's so many people that you're like, that's not a business, that's a hobby. Like this is not like investable. Like, there are certain businesses that you need that money, like with tech or research or whatever. But I'm very happy. Yeah, it was painful. And I had a miserable many years doing it this way, for sure. Again, masochist. But I grew the business the right way, and the way that the business should have been grown. It was organic. It was year over year. It was like very measured. I was in a luxury space, and you have to protect your brand if that's the space you're playing in. I'm watching like, the crackhead version of the laundress now under Unilever, and like they're now trying to be like a mass brand. And that was, you can't be a Ralph Lauren and sell out to TJ Maxx on the very beginning. Like there is a way, like you have to be measured. So there was enough space to grow in that upper echelon where it was the collaborations with J. Crew. That was a big game changer where we were really more well known. And this was in like the high times of J. Crew when they were doing amazing things with Nikki Drexler. And it was like totally acceptable to be wearing J. Crew with Lanvin. You know, this was like the whole time.
Yes.
And then a collaboration with Le Labo when people didn't even know what Le Labo was. I mean, there was so much space to play in. And then globally, where each country and each region was growing the same. It was so fun to see a global growth pattern that all followed themselves. So I could watch the growth of Japan. Then it was Korea, same growth strategy. They all grew the same way. Then into Hong Kong and then into mainland China. So there was enough to grow in that space and have incredible returns. You know, to be like, to have your business grow 30% year over year is like rock star. I didn't need like some PE spaghetti money to throw against the wall for that.
So awesome. Okay, so you focus on positioning this as a luxury brand. You're getting key PR. You form key partnerships. Now, one thing I know about you
luxury,
is
though, attainable luxury, where
attainable luxury.
You are presenting a elevated experience with better ingredients, better. It's an elevated experience, and yes, you're paying a premium for those incredible ingredients that yield an incredible outcome.
But it's still attainable. It's attainable. Everybody can. Yes.
It was like 20 cents more than Tide.
Yeah. So that's a win.
Yeah, this isn't like, you know, a choice between Neutrogena and like, you know, Augustine Bidar or whatever.
Yeah.
Like attainable.
Yeah. So it was attainable luxury. Now, one thing I know about you is that you always knew from the beginning that if this brand was going to have, especially because you were financing it yourself, if this brand was going to have the impact that you knew it could and should, that you were going to have some form of exit plan and that you were going to exit to some kind of large organization that would be able to have it scale at the impact. Talk to me a little bit about how early you knew that and how you felt about that during the process.
Yeah, I mean, I truly believe that. And we're in a bit of a converse of believing in myself to do crazy things. I didn't believe in myself in the capacity of how big I could make this brand. Where, okay, it was going to get to a certain critical mass that it would be better off in a large CPG and really flourish and help as many. I mean, it's like so Pollyanna, but like I really wanted my product to help as many people as possible. That was it. It wasn't like how much like is my windfall. It was like I want my impact to be the greatest. I make incredible stuff. I want everyone in the world to have the opportunity to have this. And for me, it was like so stupid. It was like, yeah, of course you sell the Whole Foods. You know, like it wasn't that hard.
Right.
The playbook that was sold was super easy, but Unilever just like ignored the plan and the playbook and combusted.
Well, let's talk about that. So how quickly do you get approached for acquisition? I know you got approached by PE pretty early. How early do you start getting approached, and when do you finally get that call?
There was one approach, and it was year 15. Year 15.
One approach.
And it was actually happened exactly how I expected it to. Every year we reinvested in some project, whether it was like a new website, which now sounds ridiculous because you can like throw up a Shopify for like.
I know, but then it was very expensive.
And it was hundreds of thousands of dollars. I mean,
totally.
And it was like multiple websites, like the most painful thing over a year, so expensive, but to reinvest strategically back into the business. Finally, around year 15, it was, okay, the original business plan had a store. And the reason why there was a store was that I wanted to be able to communicate the laundress brand experience in its true form, not on a shelf at the Container Store, not on the internet. I had stores in Japan. There was like, I had international stores. I never had my own. in like my own, mothership lands. So it was friends were like, don't do it. Like my friends who, um, Andrew and Matthew who own Malin and Getz were like, don't do the stores. It was like, but it was like outstanding business. And so I built the store on Prince Street. And just as I expected, in its true form, it was like hang the fly paper and in walks some guy from Unilever.
Wow. So he literally walked into the store?
Literally walked into the store. Literally.
Okay, so how does this go? Go through the whole talk. Like I need to know.
Like a huge red flag of like, what idiot walks into your store for like a negotiation?
Right. But it's amazing how huge companies operate. Like you think like no, but he walks in the store.
You didn't bother calling the phone number,
Oh my
email.
God. No, just walk into the store.
It's just a joke. Like one chino-clad Unilever employee walks into a store. Middle-aged man, white man from Ohio walks into the store.
Hello, I am from Unilever. Amazing. So what happens?
I was just talking to my employee, and my employee calls me, and she's like, "Gwen, get down here," because my office was near Penn Station. And I was like, "Can you pass the phone, please?" And I was like, "Hal, what are you doing? Talking about like into my employee? Like, can you get out of the store and call me back?"
Yeah.
So after that, we got summoned to the Unilever mothership in New Jersey and asked to kiss the ring and if we want to join the family and drink all the Kool-Aid and you're the crown jewel. We want you in the portfolio. We have all the candy jars. All you do is put your hand in the jar and get whatever you want. It was really creepy, actually, that I say, like, literally, that's what it was.
Yeah, but that's what it feels like, right? They have all the power. I mean, they have, look what we can do for you. So, but it was what you envisioned. That was what you envisioned at that point because you were thinking about the impact that the laundress could have and that they could help you.
Yeah,
and right?
And they had acquired 7th Generation a couple years earlier.
That's right.
And that to me was like who I wanted to acquire. I wanted 7th Gen to acquire me. The original 7th Generation, I thought we were very complimentary. They were like super, super green and really well served that mass market in a very authentic way. And this is, I say, original 7th Gen because
7th Generation.
Yeah. Unileverized, unfortunately. And so I was like, of course, like I read a ton. Like, again, this is the access of information then is so different than now. But, it was like super public what P&G did to Frederick Fekkai over the years.
Yeah.
Like he bought it back and like the whole drama of like I was aware of bad journeys in big CPG, don't get me wrong, but I thought I was in like the safe space. I thought like, okay, this is like, I'm in a safe space because.
And they had acquired 7th Generation. So at that point was what you knew. Totally. And also I think at least in my experience, just, when somebody comes to you and you see the potential of what can be done, you come at it from a space of wanting to make the deal happen and wanting it to be great. And so there's all of that. And so, okay, so
I feel very different, Carrie. It's very different too, which is as a independent builder who are heart founders. You build with your heart and your passion. And it's very different when you raise money. You have to exit. Period. End of story. That's how that happens.
Right.
So you are in a very different ballgame, whether you realize it or not. That you have to sell. You have to pump money. And you have to whore out what you got to do to cross the finish line because that's the deal you agreed to.
The moment you take in money, there is an exit plan associated with that money and a return that you must give to the investor.
It's a very different mentality. We're kind of like, if maybe you do care where it ends up, but you're on a journey to cross the finish line. And your goal is to cross that finish line because that was your mandate. You signed that contract when you took that investment.
Yes.
I didn't have, and like I was doing this from an altruistic idea that this was the appropriate step.
So you sign
So,
and
but it was a 13-year negotiation. This was like not overnight. It was a very long, painful process. The state of the business was super healthy, growing, all great. The inner workings of my corporate structure was hanging on by a thread. So it was a very difficult dance. And in and the value for the people listening and for the exit whisperer is, yes, I had all the control of as the founder and and the exit upside, but not raising money. I never presented. I never did, there's a dance that you learn when you're
you've
raising.
no idea. Yes.
I didn't even know what a cap table was until like
Yeah. Yeah. Because why would you? It's just you.
which is like kind of like now that's like a badge of honor.
Yeah. Yeah.
But like, so you have certain advantages because you don't have anyone telling you what to do and you don't have like other people's interests that you have to manage, but you're also at a disadvantage because you've never been at the table before.
Right.
And it came out of nowhere. Not that we were expecting to kind of go a year out, so we weren't prepared. And then you end up like on your hind legs when you're like emergency hiring lawyer, like interviewing lawyers, and you're like getting recommendations, and it's so like. And again, not raising money where you were used to speaking openly about your sort of private business. Everything was like glued to the chest. You're like whispering, like, do you know a lawyer? Like silently.
And it's very heightened. It's all of it.
I had like 2 confidants because you just think like, I can't tell anybody. Like, I don't want to jinx it. I don't want to expose myself. I can't say anything. I would do this very differently now, obviously. But that was the feeling. And I felt very much on the hind legs of not being prepared with the team and the structure behind to get on the acquisition slide.
Absolutely. I think so many of us feel on defense when we're going out to sell our businesses. And when in reality, it's like they are so lucky to be acquiring us. And it's the urgency, that sense of urgency, and the you've never done this before, and the discomfort, and you're dealing with your, so much of not just your net worth, but like your core identity. Just it's very heightened. Everything is very, very heightened. Okay, so you get across the finish line, you close, you're so happy. I assume at first how quickly do you know that something's gonna not be great here?
Very quickly, like day 2.
Day 2. And this is a big exit. I mean, this was a big exit for you. The reported numbers are out there. It's a big exit for the company. It was amazing, but you knew very quickly that it was not going to be.
Yes. And I think what, in retrospect, I wish I had a better command on. It was 100% exit sale. I had a 2-year contract.
Okay.
That continued doing what I was doing, quote unquote.
Yep.
Running the company, but not we didn't have a C-suite title team like that. We didn't even use those terms. It was like, I didn't have a board. I never had a C-suite team. It was like very hands-on DIY, not that it wasn't structured. It was clearly structured, but we didn't have like the fluff ball.
You weren't corporate at all.
I didn't know what a KPI was until Unilever.
Right. Amazing.
Like, thank God. What a waste of time that is. I was like, everyone knows their KPI. Like, they know their job. They don't have to make
We know what they need to do.
Yeah. There's zero confusion what happens here.
Right.
But the point is that it was not we were sold the deal that we would continue operating as usual. Now, when you sell 100%, you kind of get in a gray zone where you're like, yeah, I'm operating as usual, but I don't own this ship anymore.
Yeah, you're an employee.
This isn't my party. So like, where does like the line start or stop? And they're like, oh, here's some woman that you're reporting to who is based in the Philippines. And I was like, great. But like, I just sold my company. I'm not doing a call at 10 o'clock on a Tuesday. Like that ship sailed, pal.
Right. Right. Right.
And then there was like a presentation of like, again, another 15 men. And like they were all in a Zoom and they accepted what they did. And I was like, okay, so who was doing what here? And I never saw any 15 of them ever again. So
Oh my God. So it just total not a fit in terms of culture. You are not built.
There's zero organization. It was like you're in charge, but you're not. And no one's in charge then. Because if I wasn't in charge, no one else was.
Yeah.
And it was completely disorganized. And now when I talk to other, companies, they had no strategy and no team and no plan for an onboarded acquisition. You're either going to leave the company independent and like that's it,
let it operate. Yep.
or you're going to like have a real plan, but they didn't do either. And if I can go around the room and point fingers on the male operated businesses and the female operated businesses and who stayed and who didn't. So you can guess what that is.
Right. So how long did you make it on the 2-year?
Out. Laundress ladies out.
Bye.
Like, you can point through the whole room.
That's amazing.
But
and so how long?
Someone out, but if you don't have one in, then like the roof flies off, which is exactly what happened. Just after my contract expired, it took less than a year for the roof to completely fly off the business. And this is where it goes back to, of course, I am the only one that can do better than them, but that's not what I believed at the time.
So tell our listeners what happened with the recall and the whole thing. Tell us.
Again, there's no one in charge, or there were people in charge that were wildly underqualified and completely incompetent. It was a complete disregard for the know-how and that you actually have to know what you're doing. And they're like, oh, this is such a small business, like easy peasy, give it to some like underqualified marketing guy, a guy, of course. Was male that they brought into my 100% female company. Just saying. And white, of course.
Yes, of course.
Of course.
Yeah.
So, I mean, just the optics were like so ridiculous.
Right. The whole thing.
You're like, oh no, it's a problem. You can't have 100% female. That's a
right.
real.
We must change this immediately. Yes. Okay. And then
spirit as an unqualified white man in charge, mansplaining you.
That's correct. That's a whole other topic for a whole other day. It's like, really. But okay. So
what happened? You have no one in charge. No one knows what end is up. No one has any accountability. Nobody cares. No one's compensated or has a KPI attached to having like a $100 million recall. No one loses a job over that. No accountability. So, they took the gun and they put it in their mouth and they pulled the trigger, and that's what happened.
So the product was recalled and you're no longer.
Yeah, the brand shut down for about 9 months and they relaunched. I didn't know what they were going to do, if they were going to like can. I mean, I wish they just canned it, but they kept paying my employees, and which was super bizarre, to like do nothing. And then they relaunched with like effectively a Unilever stock product with my label and my fragrance and my brand ethos, and they're trying to buy a audience back, because it is like, with the disregard for a brand that's been in people's home that long. We're talking like 16, 18-year-old clients. These are very like, I had like a cult community.
Yeah, you had a whole following. Yeah.
Whole following. And when you let people down in that capacity, you don't get that back. That's like done. So
I would imagine that as someone who likes to have a form of control or at least agency over their business, like you did not go out and raise funds because you felt that you could do this and you were doing it on your own. I would imagine that the feeling of selling and then leaving and then having something with your name attached. Not really, it's not Gwen, but it's the laundress, which you are linked.
On
Right.
Smear Rag about the recall.
Yeah. Yeah. I would imagine that that was intolerable.
It was the worst thing ever. It was horrifying. Aside from my personal horror of my name being, there wasn't a great delineation. Yes, there was Unilever owned it, but there wasn't there wasn't a great delineation about me and my role then.
Yeah.
And now it's like the time is now like, oh, of course it got ruined. I mean, that now I say, oh, I sold my brand. Oh, of course they fucked it up. I mean, that's like a given now.
Right.
But 5.5 years ago, that wasn't the norm. I mean, it was the exception.
And you didn't expect it. You don't expect, first of all, yes, they all change things. They all fuck things up to some extent. The recall that happened with the laundress was so big and you weren't there. And it just, to me, I just see the whole arc of your story, which leads to like, I was going to ask you how you healed or worked through from that, which I know some of that is what your next venture is. But I would love to know, before we even talk about the next venture, were there things that you did to deal with the feeling of feeling out of control? Was it that you went right into the next thing, or did you go through any kind of process for yourself?
When these things happen, you like open up the filing cabinet and look at the
Yeah.
contract.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, what? Like, what are my rights? What? I wasn't worried about any liability.
Right.
But my husband was, other people were, but I was like, that's that should
No.
I was personally upset that this is my legacy. This is like the end after all I did. This is
Yes.
the ending legacy.
Yes.
That was the heartbreak. But the biggest heartbreak was the complete letdown to my people. And in those contracts, in the filing cabinet, I was like, oh, I have a non-disparaging agreement. Like, okay, I can't even say a word. So I had to sit there in silence. I mean, people were writing me on Instagram, be like, I just washed my sweaters. What do I do? Like, I'm having a nervous breakdown, like horrible. And I was like, I can't start saying anything. I can't start saying like, your sweaters are fine, lady. Like, I'm sorry, but like, you're all good. Your sweaters are fine.
Yeah.
I could, like, if I started speaking out about what I really knew, that everyone's sweaters were just fine.
Yeah.
But I was like, I can't get involved here. And that was the painful part. The painful part was to have a dirty sock in my mouth, sitting in the corner of the room, that I felt was giving
Yes.
giving the idea that I didn't care. Oh, you just Googled the numbers. You think I'm just like fapping about, like happy as a clam that I'm out. Like, no, it was
Right. Because people can make a whole story. They see a big number. They see, you're not there anymore. They see you off in the sunset.
like, she doesn't care.
They think you don't care and you can't say a word.
No, and
So you were really silenced.
yeah, and even like so many dear male friends are like, "Oh, you got your money. Like, what do you care?"
Who
like,
cares?
That's
But you
not
did.
how this works.
Right. Right.
I mean, maybe it does for some people. I'm sure it works. Like, I'm sure there's a lot of people that works for, but that doesn't work for me.
It doesn't work for you.
Not for me.
It wouldn't work for me either.
Yeah.
So, and I think a lot of women who are listening to this will completely understand where you were coming from and what you experienced during that time. I mean, to me, the only word that comes up for me is like intolerable. Like I'm just thinking about it. It's just really, really, really difficult.
Yeah.
And so that led you to launch what is your now project?
Yeah, but I had a 5-year non-compete, non-disparaging.
So you had to sit in it.
That happened on year 3.
Oh.
So that dirty sock stayed in my mouth for a really long time. That sucked. Yeah, so I did care. That was like not fun. But I was very measured. I tried to be as measured as possible. It's hard. Transition is hard. And I hadn't been through a transition in a very long time. And when I transitioned from Ralph Lauren to the laundress, that was so hard. I hated it so much. Like there are certain things that I missed my friends, I missed my office,
Yes.
missed like all of those things. Yes, it was exciting, but it was so lonely. And like these things, transitions are super hard and it's so uncomfortable. There were so many things I wasn't prepared for. I wasn't prepared for I wasn't emotionally prepared for the sale. In a way, I wish I was prepared to like sign and walk out the door, but I was very not prepared for that. And plus I was like sold the deal that I was like the key player here,
Yeah.
I was like dedicated. I was completely dedicated to my contract. And some people don't do the same that I do. But I was dedicated to my team. I was dedicated to my suppliers. I was dedicated to my partners, my international business partners that all got screwed. And that was also very uncomfortable because I never had I was never given, there was no marker of time that was the appropriate time to be like, thank you, I am stepping out now, or like, here's a handover. Like I expected how I morally ran my company to like have a proper ceremonial handover.
Correct.
Here is the
Correct.
person in charge. Have a
Yeah.
as a meet and greet, a Zoom, like a proper change of control, and that never happened. So what ended up happening is I never had any exit conversation with these people that were so important, and I just kind of like slithered to the side, which felt horrible as well. So
I really identify with this. I identify with this. And this is part of the emotional preparation that you need because you almost never will get the type of transition that you want or you would have given with the heart that you have and the way that we run our companies.
exactly, but
You don't get that.
as someone who's going through your program, Carrie, like I'm hoping that becomes part of the checklist. Have a clear understanding of your change, whatever that change looks like, that will make you feel good as the founder. Have that identified and have that out in the open. And like I wish that I had, like, instead of getting the email that they were shutting off my fucking email that day.
Yep. Yep.
At midnight, Gwen at the laundress has been
We're done.
for 20 years. It's shut down.
That happens. That happened to me too.
Thank you for my job. Thank you for the cert. Like, nothing. Just like, go fuck off. Midnight close.
These are the things that people don't know.
Like it was like I got fired and like sent home with a banker box
gosh.
for my own company.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
But I was just waiting for the appropriate moment to be like peaceful change, peaceful handover. And it never happened. And then a year later, they're all so screwed.
A mess.
No one's talking to them. It's like shroud of mess. We call confident, like mess, and mess, because nobody there knows what's up.
Yeah.
So to sit in transition is so uncomfortable. I didn't want to get committed to anything. I was like, breathe it out. Like sit in.
Yep. Sit in it for a little bit. Yep.
That's when last year, literally like now, I was like, God damn it, I have to make detergent again. So annoying.
Okay, so all the agreements are up. We're good. We're gonna launch the show.
And they're coming to an end in January. My baby is unrecognizable. She's so just completely trashed and pathetic. And I was like, I was like, I'm not going to start buying Tide again. Like, what, are you serious? Like, all my friends and family are writing me, like, I'm out of, what am I doing? What are you buying? Like, we're losing it here, So I started picking up the phone and, what do you think about this? What do you think about this? And everyone's like, Gwen, we'll do whatever you need. So that's when you get reassured of being a great founder, where people care, want to work with you again, want you to succeed. They all had a personal mission to like be part of the movement. So I birthed baby number 2.
And this baby's a little different. So explain. I have a couple questions, but give us a real quick explainer of how it's different, like, and how you, the subscription, give the whole thing, the membership, everything.
So I did not want to build a giant CPG brand again. Baby number 1, done. This is a second child. I'm 20 years older. I'm like, premenopausal. I don't have it. I don't have like the mothering. I'm not
right.
As my doctor says, Gwen, you're not wired for mothering anymore. You're coming into the queen bee.
Perfect. So perfect time for this baby.
Perfect time. So, but what I do want is to create product for my community that I serviced for all those years. And so I launched a brand called The Fill. The website's thefillclub.com. And The Fill is a private members community, and where you can just join the membership. There's 2 tiers of membership, and they're tied to shipping schemes, I guess, like the way to ship. And it's the most exclusive, inclusive club ever, but it's not a subscription, so anyone can buy whatever they want. It's like an Amazon membership.
Right.
Costco. But you have to be a member, and so it's only the people in the community that get my know-how, and where I gave my know-how away for all those years. And it was open source. It was on my website. I would email people. I, later on was doing it on social, but I was like, my know-how is not for free anymore. This is not for everybody. This is just for the people in the community who want to be in a safe space, in a trusted space, in a valued space. I don't want to be harassing people with promotions and emails and content and standing on my head doing videos. Like, no. They're like, I don't know. I'm a very anti-social media person. So, but like, I don't want to be. And now, I mean, every minute is like Black Friday sale. It's like, I don't want to harass people. I don't want.
You didn't want to feel schlocky. You don't want to feel schlocky. You don't want to be hot.
It's.
I know.
I had a huge community. I don't need everyone to join my community, but they're welcome. But like, I am there for them. And if I have a small percentage of the people who want to be there, that's who I want to serve.
I guess my final question for you, Gwen, the business that you started with the laundress, you always knew was going to go to an acquirer. When you start a business like this, that's an exclusive members community, do you start with the end in mind, or is it just you're doing it because you love it? When you think about this business and where it will end, how do you see it for yourself?
I ended up doing this company because of my acquirer. I would be very happy if my brand was a success post acquisition. So I certainly am not building with an acquirer in mind.
Good. Well, maybe we'll have to talk about that. I'm so interested. We'll have to think about what the end of this will be. Maybe it'll just be a labor of love and you just do it until you don't do it anymore, which is okay too.
But I love employing people. I love growing people. I am very happy to not be a tiger mama and be like grandma, like for someone else, and the wise woman.
That's amazing.
And let someone else ride this journey.
Awesome. Well, Gwen, thank you so much for sharing your story with us today. It was real, it was unfiltered, and it was fabulous, just like you.
Thank you, Carrie.